I was in an abusive relationship. Hope my story will help someone. Several months after the end of my abusive relationship, I find myself craving to let it off my chest. Few people know about this, as I am afraid to sound as an attention whore to them. I finally decided that I should share my story without being ashamed about it. My main goal is not to find some pity. By sharing my story, I simply hope that someone who is in this same situation can finally find the strength to put an end to their nightmare. I know that my ex might happen to read this, but I don't really care, as I will not refer to any place or date, and I will not reveal any name. It all started about a year ago, when I met who I thought was a wonderful guy. We would just talk for hours, getting to know each other better, and I slowly realized at a certain point that I was in love with him. He would understand and support me, and being in a very difficult period of my life, I really appreciated that. We got together pretty quickly, and I must admit that things started to be weird since the very beginning. I thought that maybe it was me, that I had to give him time, that maybe I just had to get to know him better. After all, he had problems as well, and I was totally willing to help him through that. I don't really know how things started. I just know that slowly, he started giving me some rules. We would never go out, and those few times we did, he would just make me feel guilty about it afterwards. He would say that I was never happy about him, that he did anything for me. Doing anything was going out once in a month for a couple of hours just to make me happy, while I did nothing for him, while actually I seriously became his slave, and I had to do everything he asked me to. At first I thought, well, maybe he is right. At the start of our relationship, we would go out sometimes. After a month or so, I found myself feeling happy even when we simply walked to the supermarket, because that would be the only thing we did together outside of his bedroom walls. At a certain point, we even stopped doing that. He would always be mad at me, so he treated me like a slave. He would just force me to go to the supermarket every time he wanted something. Once, he let me go there 3 times in a day just because I did not get what he wanted. Slowly, he also started isolating me from my friends. I must admit that it is partially my fault. I allowed him to do so. I was so in love with him at that point that I would have done anything to keep him into my life. During the first period, he made it sound as if I was the one who wanted to be there with him all the time. This happened before I realized that he was actually manipulating me and convincing me that I was the one who was isolating herself. In reality, he just slowly convinced me that this one friend of mine wasn't good for me, and neither was this other one. I did not believe him at first, so I would keep seeing them until he just did not allow me to see certain friends of mine anymore. Because they have a bad influence on you, and I know what a whore you are. At this point, I must say that I have never ever cheated in my whole life. I never thought of cheating on him, and I would still never cheat on anyone. Yet he was so convinced that I was a whore. He also forced me to quit smoking, and I did, because it was the only way to keep him by my side. At first, I really thought that if I did not obey, he would dump me. With time, I realized that he would have never broken up with me. He would simply become violent, but he would never leave me. The first slap came this one day when I dared to say that I really felt like smoking. Bam, right on my face. I thought it was a kind of joke, or at least I convinced myself that it was. Since that slap, for about a month, he would just softly slap my face sometimes when I did something wrong. As the time passed by, apparently I got worse and worse at being what he wanted me to be. He thought I did not put enough effort in our relationship. He thought I did it on purpose. He never realized that I was just drained. I was never enough for him. Being a good girlfriend for him meant to simply do what he asked me to do and always say he was right. At first I could manage to do that, but at a certain point I just couldn't find the strength anymore. Above all, he thought I was stupid. He really convinced me that I was not smart at all. He said that he had never met anyone smarter than himself in his own life, and I was definitely among the most stupid people he knew. He would say that my English was awful. One thing I can reveal, I am not a native English speaker. That my university was for dumb people like me, people I study medicine and psychology and have a very good GPA, by the way. And that if I had to study so hard for my final exam, it must have meant that I was dumb. He never realized that I was just way too insecure and suffering from